Welcome to the Humanergy Leadership Podcast. My name is David Wheatley. We're here to talk leadership in small, bite-sized and practical chunks. Enjoy. So welcome, and this episode I want to focus on a side of communication, and that side of communication is when we're sharing information. When I'm sending something, whether it be an email or a memo, or I'm doing a speech to somebody, or I'm thinking of sharing some information in whatever form I'm choosing to share it, that one of the biggest challenges is we're thinking about the communication. And if you've been around Humanergy for a while, you may understand that we talk about the object being mutual understanding. The means to the end is communication. So if I focus whether I'm listening or sending information on this mutual understanding and achieving mutual understanding, then it makes me communicate differently. Because our tendency is to communicate something that I can understand in the way that I would understand it in the format, the forum that I like. Whereas if I'm focused on achieving mutual understanding, then I'm going to do some things differently. And we have a catchy, if not corny, little way of remembering what the check boxes I have to check in order to ensure that I'm driving towards mutual understanding. The first one is to individualize. So, and am I tailoring this conversation to the audience? Rather than it being just the way I want to say it, am I thinking about the audience that I'm talking to and ensuring that I'm individualizing this to increase the chances of mutual understanding? And if you think about that, the most obvious version is if you were trying to explain what you do for a living to a first grader, you would probably say it differently to a master's degree student. They're both students, but you would explain it in a different way. And that's what I'm talking about, but on a more nuanced level, when looking at the people you're talking to and thinking about how do I best individualize or tailor this conversation for them. That's my I, individualize. The second letter is a C for context. So make sure I'm providing not just the content of the information, but the way I see it, the context that comes with that, the bigger picture. And this is especially important if it's email, because email, we have a tendency to ignore the context and just share the information. And so then what happens is whoever receives it applies their own context and can often come to a very different understanding. So when we're sending email, we should check the C box as well to make sure that we're giving the full context of this and not just the content of the data we want to share. So it's an I and a C, and then a U for making it unmistakable. And you've heard me talk about on here, we use the term meet me in Detroit. And there's a whole episode focused on meeting me in Detroit earlier on. But we use meet me in Detroit as shorthand for those phrases and sayings that have the potential to be misunderstood. One of my favorites is as soon as possible. People use as soon as possible all the time, and yet that has a very different meaning to very different people. And so making it unmistakable is making sure that you're wording things, you're articulating it in a way that makes it as clear as possible to the audience without making assumptions about what it is that you're saying. No meet me in Detroits. So we got an I, a C, a U, and then another C, which makes up ICUC, because I want to make sure that what I see is what you see. And our second C is closing the loop. And can I get the other person or the other people to close the loop, the communication loop with me, and demonstrate their understanding? Now, this is always interesting because people feel embarrassed to do this. And the reason they feel embarrassed is because they have a tendency to put the onus on the listener for any mistake. So I might say, hey, I just shared this with you just to make sure you didn't miss it and that you did get it. Tell me what you're taking away from it. And I'm putting all the emphasis for any mistake on you. If I flip that around and I say, hey, I've just shared this information with me, and sometimes I'm not always clear, will you do me a favor and just tell me what you're taking away? Then I'm putting the onus for any mistake on me. And so in owning it, then people are more willing and more likely to summarize what they're taking away, which tells me whether we have mutual understanding or not. So that's I, individualize, C, provide the context, U, unmistakable, and then another C for closing the loop. You don't start with one and then move to the other. Just look at your communication and check it off against those four and say, okay, have I individualized it? Have I provided the context? Is it unmistakable? And have I provided the opportunity for people to close the loop back in a way that will feel like I own any mistake rather than I'm putting the onus on them? Love to hear your thoughts. That was the Humanergy Leadership Podcast. My name's David Wheatley. For further information about Humanergy, go to humanergy.com or check out our latest book, What Great Teams Do Great, from all good bookstores. Have a good one. Stay healthy.